Popping, y'all. Welcome to Eddie and Mike. It's me, Mike, and I'm here with my guy.
Stop playing, Mike. They know who I'm is.
They
Standing
know
on
who
Eddie P. At
they
your,
know who is.
at your service.
So yeah, we are back at it again. Another year, another draft for the Washington Commanders. Um, we're just gonna jump right into it and start from what's happened so far at the beginning of this record for the Commanders in the draft. It started yesterday, Thursday, with the number 2 overall pick. They drafted Jaden Daniels, quarterback from LSU. We're going to talk a lot about him in a couple of minutes. And then tonight happened. It started off pretty interesting with the 36th pick. We thought they would go offensive tackle, cornerback, receiver. They went defensive tackle. But they drafted Johnny Newton from Illinois, and apparently he's a highly touted player that a lot of people thought was going to go in the first round, but he went in early in the second round. We'll talk about him later because after he was picked, 4 picks later, Washington did the unthinkable. They traded down with the Eagles. Washington sent their 40th pick, 78th pick, and 152nd pick to the Eagles. But in return, they received the 50th pick, 53rd pick, and 161st pick. With the 50th pick in the draft, the Washington Commanders drafted Mike, I want to get his name right, Sanderstill, cornerback from Michigan. With the 53rd pick, they drafted Ben Sinnott, tight end from Kansas State. I'm gonna say something interesting about him later. And then with their last pick so far in the draft, with the 67th pick, they drafted Brandon Coleman, offensive tackle from Texas Christian University. And so far, that's the last pick. I believe they're on pick 88 right now. And Washington has one more pick. That's going to be the 100th pick. So they have made 5 picks so far, I think. Let me double check. Yeah. So far, Washington has made 5 picks. They have made 5 picks. Quarterback Jaden Daniels, defensive tackle Johnny Newton, cornerback Mike Samerstill, and tight end Ben Sinnott. Now, I could be getting those last 2 player names wrong, but we have time to do some research and get it right before training camp. And the 5th player they took was the offensive tackle, Brandon Coleman from Texas Christian University. So that's quarterback, defensive tackle, cornerback, tight end, and offensive tackle. I think they pretty much hit all the needs except for wide receiver. Maybe not in the order that everybody wanted to, but so far, what are your thoughts or questions or concerns?
Well, certainly I'm not disappointed. It's a whole new regime. So, as I've expressed, I think in great deal and length on previous episodes, I'm going to ride with what this group does. I'm going to be patient. I certainly think myself, along with many others, are surprised whether or not we traded into the first round or not, but that we just didn't go offensive tackle early. And I want to float something out there. I feel kind of foolish for not being all over this. Uh, not and I'm not saying because of this sort of angler advantage that it's going to happen, it's going to work out, and blah blah blah. But I get to thinking like, what if we drafted Penix Jr., who's a lefty, and then we go after a right tackle because he's a lefty, and whereas the left tackle to most quarterbacks, that's a right tackle to him. And again, just because that um scenario exists or situation, whatever you want to call it, because that's there, doesn't mean like, hey, not only is it going to be there, but it's going to happen, it's going to work out, and titles, Tinseltown. I'm not saying that. I just was kind of lamenting, like, hey, I should have thought of that. Anywho, I, I'm thrilled with Jaden Daniels. I'd be thrilled if it was Jake, if it was Drake May, and not. I've kind of grown, especially in recent time, that I'm again going to ride with what this group does. But I think the big surprise was not going after an O lineman earlier, and then not just not going after an O lineman early, but then you didn't go after a cornerback. You didn't receiver to me. I could put that much more on the back burner than some of the other positions as far as I'm concerned, but that's just me. But yeah, you didn't go after any real need. You went after a D tackle. Uh, I don't know. I'm actually like, this is like a curiosity kind of thing too. Of course, I'm rooting for it to work, but I also am like, hey, like, let me, again, some of this stuff is in a way going to be brand new to us. You know, we're so used to like toxic environment and almost like sort of like a split room on who to take, that we end up sometimes making bad pick. Well, sometimes, a lot of times, making bad picks. So, um, I'm gonna be honest. I spent most of today watching the Caps game, tracking the Nats game, watching NBA playoffs. I didn't. I was definitely trying to peek in on the draft, but that's why I wanted, like we talked about before the show started, to have you kind of speak a lot more to it. I know a lot of people are bummed that we didn't get the white guy from Iowa, and I get it. Especially being a fellow Caucasian from the mountains of Caucasus and whatnot. Um, yeah, whatever. Cool. Like, I don't know. I'm not rooting against this guy, but at the same time, like, because he's white and he's a corner, it's the same thing with the Penix Jr. thing. Like it's not just gonna happen because he's there. So, and we did need a defensive back, and he's got some versatility. So again, it's not that I'm knocking him, but I'm just not like losing my mind over not picking that guy. I kind of really wanted us to trade into the first round and get an offensive tackle, but like, I don't know, let's see what these guys do. So I don't. What do you? I've been talking for a minute, man. You talk. So
Um,
professional.
let's start from the top and work our way down because it did start off pretty good, all things considered,
Let's
with
do that
Jaden
first
Daniels.
person because I want to do that too. Go ahead, please. So
Huh?
I was saying that that's a great idea because while I'm not going to have a lot to say about the latter picks, but just addressing what they might represent. Yeah, I've got comments, not a lot. The first one more so, but yes, please
Yeah.
continue.
So with Jaden Daniels, everybody get mad when, well, not everybody, but some people, they get mad when they make the comparison between Jaden Daniels and RG3. I mean, it is what it is. Like, not only are they both black, but they're slim receivers that are straight line speed runners or scramblers. Like, it's okay to make that comparison. I get that you don't want to seem like you're in a box or whatever, but there's been plenty of black quarterbacks and they're different. Like, not every black quarterback's the same. So if there's another quarterback that you can compare them to, then hey, so be it. But um, besides all that, like I I have no problems with the pick. It seems like he's a nice person, chill person, um, very dedicated to his craft, and that's something that I wanted. Like I remember talking to my nephews and or somebody, I don't know, could have been them, could have been somebody else, but they asked me what would I want in a quarterback, what I like in a quarterback. I was like, they gotta love football. And in his press conference, he said he had a note on his wall or something at 7 years old, like I'm gonna make it to the NFL,
Yep,
something like that. So
confirmed.
um, yeah, and another thing I like in the press conference, he mentioned somebody asked him besides Cam Newton, Vic, RG3, yada yada, like what are others who are what has he gotten from other quarterbacks or whatever? And he mentioned Tom Brady and Peyton Manning and was just saying how they model themselves, how they never been in any controversy, have never had off the field issues like that or whatever. And it just shows me like this young man, he gets it. Like he understands the position. And that's something I feel like the last couple of well, the last two quarterbacks we drafted in the first round, they didn't understand how to play the position off the field just as much as they had to play it on the field. And Jaden Daniels, he can he can do that. And that's just off the field. On the field, he's he's electrifying. Like there's no other word to describe it to me, honestly. He could beat you with his arm, he could beat you with his legs, and he could beat you with his mind. Like this man was calling plays at the line of scrimmage at LSU. Like he really is a well-rounded quarterback, and I feel like the only weakness is going to be his arm strength, and that's only because he doesn't have a cannon. Um,
Got him.
he
I love it. I love it, man.
he yeah, his arm isn't as strong as Rodgers or Mahomes or definitely not Josh Allen, definitely not Patrick Ramsey. His arm may be, I don't know, a little bit stronger than Case Keenum or whatever. But if y'all remember, Case Keenum was actually like a great, well, not great, but a decent deep ball passer during his tenure here in Washington. I would say his arm strength is on that level, just thinking off the top of my head. And like, I think the only quarterback that was truly better than him in the draft was Caleb Williams, and we couldn't get him. So yeah,
Is what it
and I
is.
think honestly, bro, one more thing real quick. I think we might have gotten a better person, and this sound like weird to say or whatever, but like the stuff that we hear about Jaden Daniels off the field is completely different than the stuff we've been hearing about Caleb Williams. And it's not even saying that Caleb Williams is a bad person or whatever. I guess what I'm trying to say is that I think
Controversial.
it'll be less controversy with Jaden
Yep.
Daniels than it will be with Caleb Williams.
Totally
Especially
agree.
with Caleb Williams being from this DC area too. That'll be nuts.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, they wouldn't be vouching for him at all, and I think especially, the Windy City, that's going to be like a sort of a rough kind of go for Caleb Williams. But hey, it's 2024, and we're heading a whole new direction, whether we like it or not. Um, I'm definitely, like I've said on previous episodes, I'm psyched for the pick. There's lots to love. I think when you look at things, I don't think he's as fast or has the arm strength that RG3 has, but the comps are definitely there. Black quarterback, athletic, a lot of those kind of things. But I think the things that separate pardon me, is Jaden Daniels from RG3 is when you look at like the pre and post snap reads, RG3, don't get me wrong, he was talented and he could play football. And I understand, sometimes you're going with what the coach calls and things like that. But when you hear other coaches talk about Jaden Daniels, especially like Nick Saban's of the world, and they're talking about, hey, yeah, like this guy sees a lot. His pre and post snap reads are definitely, superb. And, and I think that's what's going to separate him. Granted, at LSU, he had guys, at the skill positions on the offensive line. Like he was in a good program. And so he flourished. But I also don't see anything wrong with that. I feel like that should be the objective if you're coaching a team, is to put your players, especially at the quarterback position, in a situation where they have other players around them to magnify their talent. I get it. You want a guy who can come in and lift other players up, but that also just kind of sounds like, hey, I'm gonna take a turd and wrap some tinfoil and, put some glitter on it and try to make an earring out of it. Like I get it. It's not quite that extreme, but at the same time, I don't like that approach where like, well, the quarterback's gonna make everybody better. Okay, but you also have to kind of, compromise here and there. So love the pick. I will say one thing where I'm on the fence. I mean, I love the comment and I believe it's genuine and sincere, but I also sometimes like I'm so superstitious. I'm not just a little stitious. I'm like, yeah, anyway, he said, I want to be a role model and be this and that. And I don't mean to like bring this up like, oh, it's not gonna happen. And certainly given, myself being a white guy, him being a black quarterback, like me automatically assuming, I just worry because and I'm gonna tell you why. I'm gonna tell you why. Like, can't do my Chris Rock. I mean, excuse me, Chris Rock. Can't do my Kevin Hart voice right now. DC has this sort of knack for messing people up, whether it's Marion Barry, whether it's Chris Webber before he had to leave and go to Sacramento. I just don't want to see, and I get it. It's a whole new thing. DC is not, other than name, much involved with the football team anymore. But I just don't want to see him like fall down that road. But we've taken a twist, and I don't think he will. I think it's good to hear. I just, again, being superstitious, I just don't want anything to be jinxed. But yeah, I mean, I'm happy with the pick. I'm excited. I think he's honest and sincere. I think that's extreme positive. He was kind of being funny, but then at the same time, they're like, "Hey, are you ready to be the starting quarterback?" He's like, "Honestly, not at all. I haven't even seen the playbook." And like, ha ha ha, but like, hey, like, look, man, like, what do you expect me to say? So, um, and what's cool is a lot of that rumor stuff. Even if it is true, even if there's like a hint to it, like, so what? Like, he's our guy now. And to be fair, everything I see confirms that Dan Quinn did go pick him up. And whereas we had all these other guys at Top Golf, he got picked up from the signature, like he had like a little bit more cozy ride, whether it's, plane to pick up spot and etc. And some of these other guys who still got drafted and still are making millions. Just saying. He got some good treatment there. So I'm excited to see it. I really, I hope this is gonna be our guy. I'm hoping he can learn how to get out of bounds. I'm hoping, obviously the running aspect of his game can be utilized, but then I'm also hoping, you know, we put this guy in a situation where he can push the ball down the field to Terry and some other guys, make plays. So I'm I'm super excited, man. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, I don't think Mariota starting week one, thankfully. I think he should beat them out easily. Well, not easily, but no disrespect to Mariota, but um, yeah, Daniels is pretty good. And honestly, I ain't got much to say about him because I said a lot about him already on previous shows.
Yeah.
We're going to talk much more about him
Hey,
once we learn more about him. And yeah, it's just nice to have somebody that we can hopefully build around. And yeah, I really like the pick. I give
what do
it.
you what do you think about that whole narrative where Brandon Ayuk, who was his teammate in Arizona State, who is a, I guess, sort of a current San Francisco 49er or a 49er in limbo, but he through I guess Jaden Daniels through him rather reached out to Adam Peters and was told at the time that this is at his still before he transferred to LSU, uh, was told, "Hey, you're probably about a fifth rounder," and so he used that sort of that draft grade as well as maybe some other comments that were made on things to improve upon or things that were a knock against him, and that kind of made him better. Not saying that like Peters, remembered him from then and tracked him the whole time in some sort of crazy story, but what do you think of all that? And then also maybe just at the end, I doubt we're gonna try to throw the money that Brandon Ayuk wants. He is, I guess, out there. I think we'd have to trade for him. I don't think he's a free agent, but I think he's wanting a new contract. So anyway, having said that, what do you think?
Nah, I'm glad you brought it up because I don't. I didn't want to trade for Ayuk because I think we already spending too much capital at the wide receiver position.
Yeah,
I know it's only two of them right now,
I
and we
agree.
didn't address it in the draft yet. But at the same time, I'm like, if you trade them, that means you're giving up like a second round pick, plus you're paying them another like $30 million a year. I know that's his man and all, but I wouldn't have traded Brandon Ayuk. But as far as him taking advice from Peters, like I mean, I that's just what you do when you're a professional. You take the opinions of people seriously, especially people that know what they're doing. Like if they're telling you you're a fifth round projected pick and you should probably stay in school another year, you might want to listen to them. And it works, or it worked for Daniels at least. So, um, yeah, I don't like. I just really appreciate how we've been able to see him literally grow as a player and a person from his time at Arizona State through his time at LSU. He's gotten better um, all over. Like he even admitted he matured when he first got to Arizona State. He wanted to be home. Once he got to LSU, he had to grow up. Um, like I probably said similar things about Haskins and RG3 or whatever, but the key difference, and won't be the last time I say this, it really is the ownership, man. Like think about it. The first year Snyder had um had a full off season with Washington. They were coming off a division title in 1999. Was real close to making it to the NFC Championship game, probably beating the Rams. and they're playing the Titans in the Super Bowl. Snyder destroyed all that, and they had two of the top 3 picks in that draft when they
Yeah.
drafted Arrington and Chris Samuels in 2000. But before that, like they messed up Brad Johnson and brought in Jeff George. They signed Bruce Smith and Deion Sanders and Mark Courier and all these old people, and like just destroyed the continuity of the team.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it was. He just really blew up whatever North Turner and them were building in the '99 season, and yeah, it was unfortunate that that happened because it was another 23 years of that type of thinking and team building. But you could tell so far with this first year in the Harris era, he's kind of minding his business. You don't see him doing involved in too many of the moves, and the moves are like actually sensible moves from free agency up to the first round of the draft. Like they've been doing some sensible things until we get to the second round with the 36th pick. And I get it. Johnny Newton, the defensive tackle from Illinois, he was ranked number 11th on PFF's big board, and we got him with the 36th pick. He was projected to go 14th, I think, and we got him with the 36th pick. So obviously there are some talent evaluators and procrastinators or whatever you call them.
Prognosticators.
Huh?
Prognosticators.
Yeah, prognosticators. That's the word I was trying to think of. Thank you, brother. Um,
Anytime.
yeah, had them high, but at the same time, it's just like with the Falcons pick of Penix Jr. at 8. Like, is that going to help us in 2024? Maybe in Washington's case, it might help, but I feel like a wide receiver at that spot could have helped more. Um, you can't really play 4 defensive tackles at once. Well, I guess you can sometimes, but it's not really ideal, especially in today's game. But you drafted Deron Payne, John Allen, Darian Mathis, and now Johnny Newton. You drafted all 4 of these players with top 40 picks, and you spending like it's exactly what I wanted to prevent with for trading with trading for Ayuk. They're doing it literally right now with the defensive tackles. So I wasn't feeling that at all. But they kind of redeemed themselves a bit with that trade. But what do you think of the second round pick of Johnny Newton?
Well, I feel like other than maybe quarterback or running back, it was the like one of the last positions I expected us to draft at. And you keep saying Johnny. I when I look, it says like Jazair or
Yeah, but he goes by Johnny, and
okay,
that's what everybody's been saying, and that's his Twitter handle.
gotcha. So,
Yeah.
hey, look again, going to the old "I'll ride with whatever this group does" kind of thing. That's where I'm at on this. Again, certainly surprised that was our next pick. I mean, I really thought, hey, O lineman, we didn't trade up into the first round, so yeah, let's see what we do. And then we take a defensive tackle. I just wow. But hey, again, we're overhauling our roster, and it's to be expected. So I'm just kind of hoping for some positive effects of these decisions. Best way I can put it.
It's really weird trading with a division rival. I think this the second time. Well, nah, it's not the second time it happened. the Chiefs and Bills aren't in the same division, but they're definitely rivals. Um, Washington and Philly with the 6th pick trade, and Washington getting back the 50th, 53rd, and 161st by giving up the 40th, 78th, and 152nd pick. But yeah, right after the trade, they got to work and drafted Mike Sanderstill. That's that's officially how you pronounce it, Mike Sanderstill. Sanderstill. Um, I ain't gonna hold you, bro. He a dog.
Ho, ho,
He's a
ho,
dog.
ho.
And you know, when we're talking Michigan, we have to go to our favorite Michigan resident fan,
Uh,
Jonah Haas. He actually hit me up first, and I'll go through our discussion. It was quick. He said Sam Still was an excellent and all caps pick. My favorite player on the national championship team, and it's going to be a big part of Quinn's system. So I asked him, he good in the slot? And he says, literally the best in this draft. Oh,
ask about
he
me.
said
Ask about me.
um, Marvin Harrison Jr. and Adunze said he was the toughest guy that they faced.
Hmm.
Another high mark. He had him going 29th to Detroit. He said, y'all got him at 51. It was actually 50, but who's counting?
Gee,
Interception machine, best nickel in the draft, and is a locker room dream. He was a captain of the national team. Um, Also, another person that everybody holds in high regard, Nick Saban said pound for pound, best player in the draft. And that pound for pound is a key because he is a shorter corner, I believe, measuring in at 5'9". So you probably won't see him going one on one with AJ Brown too much. But yeah, I felt like you can play Benjamin St. Juste in the slot, but he's not a slot cornerback. Now you have Mike Sanders still to pair with Quan Martin, and all of a sudden the slot cornerback position looks pretty great in Washington. Not good, but great. So knowing all that, hearing all that, how you feeling about that pick and the trade with Philly?
uh, it's always weird when you're trading with someone within the same conference, let alone the
Mm-hmm.
same division.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I'm going to keep going with the company line. I'm going to trust this regime. The things I can say without necessarily knowing a lot about this guy, he was part of a national championship team. And furthermore, comes from a program, especially the last couple of years, that has a winning tradition and just overall has a winning tradition. And I've always expressed my I don't want to say infatuation, but just my love for guys like that. Because if you get enough of them coming into one group, even if they're not all from the same team, obviously, and now they're on the same team, that sort of competitiveness, that winning culture, it breeds excellence. So I love all that, and then I also love the fact we are in an area where it gets cold, where there's rain, there's sleet, there's snow, there's a combination of all of the above. FedEx Field is not great. I'm hoping, playing in Michigan with some of the weather that and the Big 10 for that matter, that this gentleman has dealt with, that will pay dividends as well. Um, it's a position of need. So yeah, I mean, I'm just checking a number of boxes here, and that's where I'm at. Um, like the pick, Jonah. Listen to this episode. Tell me what I missed. Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you. You're welcome. Yeah, I think that's it. On to the next. Jay-Z.
So I'm trying to. I think it's pronounced not. Um,
Yeah, if there's
bro,
I, it would be that like French thing like Sonoy or something like that. But I looked
salute.
at it too. So nope.
But look, check this out, man. He's the third round pick for Washington, pick 53. I ain't gonna hold you. I had only seen 4 plays from the Bama, right? My brother. Why does man look like Cooley? Like his play style reminded me of Cooley. 4 plays in, bro. I'm like, this look like Cooley in 2024. Like,
So
got
he
the weird numbers and everything. Like, he number 34 in Kansas City, running like this man,
Mr.
catching, lining up in the backfield. Like, he really looked like Chris Cooley, bro. But he gets so much weirder. While I'm looking at the YouTube highlights, I got headphones on. I'm listening to Team 980's coverage of the draft. They have him on the phone live.
Yeah.
As soon as I text that to a couple of people, bruh, why you say I used to watch Chris Cooley when I was younger, growing up? This man grew up in Iowa. He's 20 something. So he was barely alive during Chris Cooley's prime, but
Internet,
still was like
internet.
watching that man. So I think like his ceiling is cool. Well, I feel like his floor is Cooley's ceiling, if that makes any sense.
I mean, the ceiling is the roof, according to Michael Jordan. But
Like this dude is nice.
hey, I'm
I
not
people
sure.
have talked about him. Hold on, one more thing. People have talked about him, but I never looked at any highlights or anything because like I just a Kansas State tight end really doesn't like do it for me. But when they did talk about him, nobody was saying how much this man looked like Cooley, like a really more athletic 2024 version of Cooley. It's crazy.
Well, if he can just give us a couple seasons that Cooley gave the team formerly known as, then I think we're in pretty good shape. So certainly that's been kind of a position where we've kind of missed. No disrespect to the John Bates of the world, as well as the is it Armani Rogers? You help me out. I know that's your boy, Armani Rogers, the Vegas quarterback converted, so to speak. So we haven't had much luck there. So again, it's not an offensive tackle, but I'm gonna ride with it. Okay, Peters, we'll see what you're doing. He's being praised all up and down social media for his ability to find late round steals. So we'll see. Especially if he's able to, make some sort of trades and get more picks. Again, hey, show me what you got, and then let's go from there. So I'm not criticizing it, but kind of feel like we need some offensive linemen. I like the Biotish pick, but that was free agency.
So I'm gonna tell you, like I told everybody else,
We
y'all
thing.
always be gassing up the offensive line.
Are we
It
doing the big?
wasn't really any good ones available that was going to come in right away and play. So no matter who we drafted, they weren't going to help right away. So I understand why they waited to draft the offensive tackle, and they got a decent piece of clay that they can mold in the third round with Brandon Coleman. He played guard and offensive tackle at TCU. Looked like a big, strong Bama, long arms, and versatile. Like I said, he played offensive guard and offensive tackle at TCU. Now I ain't gonna sit here and tell you that I know a bunch about this band. I ain't heard about him. I never knew he existed until we picked him at the 67th pick. But like you said, like you keep saying, towing the company's line, like trusting the regime. I just feel like we have better coaching, better offensive schemes, better knowledge um, around the organization now. So when we see these players, we can do what I prefer to do when I look at draft prospects. Not focus on who they are, but what they can become with proper coaching and yeah, taking advantage of their abilities to the best of the coach's abilities. But yeah, Brandon Coleman, I don't like I said, I don't know much about him, but he's versatile. That's good. We like position flex, even if Rivera isn't here anymore. And even if they didn't draft an offensive tackle in the third round, like the offensive line that they have currently is just as good as what Cliff Kingsbury had in Arizona when he was coaching. And that offense was not struggling to do much until after Murray got hurt, but that's a different story. But yeah, y'all be blowing me when y'all be talking about the offensive line. Like last year at the same time, people were both saying that the offensive line was trash and Sam Howell was holding on the ball for too long. Both of those things can't be true, but people swear it was. Like, come
It
on,
was
man.
like, real quick, just backtracking. I do want to say one other thing I really like about the Jaden Daniels situation that I think could also pay dividends in terms of success. Maybe not instant success, but long term success is if you think about it, like you mentioned, the young man was homesick, playing at Arizona State, which was a lot closer to California, where he's from, is a lot different than LSU. So the transfer and then trying to have growth, that adversity, I think that's a big deal. Anywho, we are one, two, three, four. I guess if you want to count us as being fifth, or just there's 4 to 5 more picks before we make pick number 100 of the NFL draft. Um, Mike is there, and don't get me wrong, man. I don't have a clue who's out there still. Is there someone you want, but to make it a little easier, is there a position you'd like us to?
Well, so hold up. Before we get to that, let's go back to the first round because we're going to talk about some other teams real quick. I
Okay.
know it's one pick that everybody was talking about, so we could talk about that pick first, and that's obviously the eighth pick of the draft from the Atlanta Falcons, drafting quarterback from Washington, Michael Penix Jr. Um,
University of Washington.
yeah, University of Washington, not Washington D.C. Um, it was. I understand the pick, but just like I said with the Johnny Newton pick, how the heck is that going to help me in 2024? And I know you're not supposed to really depend on a rookie when you're drafting a player, but with the eighth pick, I need instant impact with a top 10 pick. It ain't nothing Michael Penix going to be able to do for the Falcons in 2024, bro. Like, I give a pick, I'll grade the pick a C or a C plus or whatever because I understand the logic behind it. But honestly, if somebody gave it an F, I couldn't even be mad at them. They just gave Kirk some bread, and you get a quarterback like when I think Adunze was still available. If not him, offensive tackles were still available. You could have paired Pitts and Bowers together. Like it's so much they could have done. but they're going to draft Michael Penix Jr. And then their general manager was like, he could sit for 4 to 5 years. What? Boy,
Yeah,
if you.
and he's one of the older quarterbacks. It gets crazy when you really factor in the whole like number 8 thing, that being Kirk's number, but then whether or not Michael Pitts is going to give it up and what Kirk should give Michael Pitts for that number. Um, it's just like, hey, okay, so if Kirk isn't ready because of his Achilles injury, we've got Michael Penix Jr., but then well, then why did you sign him? And even more so, why did you sign him to all that money? So definitely lots of questions to be asked there. Um, I tell you, Mike, it was a year for anybody, and I don't even know. I kind of I threw little few things together today, but the last maybe week and a half, maybe even 2 weeks, I've been kind of off FanDuel and like betting stuff. So I don't know if you could bet on who was picked where. I'm sure you could on some sites, but it was a year for mock drafts to hit, because I feel like you really look at it, and I know, oh, are we going to pick May or Daniels? But for a long time, it was Williams, Daniels, May. And sure enough, that absolutely happened. So I really feel like the Penix Jr. one was the most exciting. I can't really think of any others that were shockers necessarily. I will say that Xavier Worthy pick for Kansas City, man, that's going to add another dimension to them. It's almost the rich get richer, but you know, when you have
No.
positions locked up and a coach that benefits those positions, it's like you're gonna get into some situations like this where, hey, like, look, the Chiefs didn't do anything like as far as cheating or anything else. I think what would they trade up? I think a couple of spots, and they made their pick, and then that's it. So,
Oh, are we the last? We are the last pick of the night. That's what's up.
yep.
So the pick, the Steelers are at 98, Rams at 99, Washington at 100. Um, yeah, the Chiefs, that Xavier Worthy pick was crazy. I could definitely see him scoring a touchdown against the Bills in the playoffs for sure. Um,
Picking on the Bills, man.
idiots.
It's
But
like,
no, seriously, that was a tough pick. It was a bunch of offensive tackles that went earlier than I thought. Like I didn't think what's the I didn't think Fatanu would go before a lot of the offensive alignment. Like Tyler Guyton going to Dallas at 29. That's kind of I thought Guyton would maybe go in the second round. So I guess shout out to the Cowboys for trading back and picking up an offensive tackle they couldn't use. Um,
what are you gonna do?
it's not really like you said. It wasn't too much unexpected in the first round. Brian Thomas Jr. to the Jags. That was fire. Them trading back and still picking up a solid wide receiver. I feel like Jared Verse on the Rams was nice. Oh, Amarius Mims. I didn't think he would go that high. He went 18 to the Bengals. A lot of people thought Dallas Turner would go before Latu Latu from UCLA. So that was cool. The Vikings really came up though, being able to get McCarthy at 10 without having to trade too much. They did trade from 11 to 10, but I think that's because the Broncos was sweet talking to Jackson was like, can we jump from 12 to 10 so we can draft JJ McCarthy? And the Vikings was like, nope. So the Broncos had to basically settle for Knicks Um,
because
why I
that's
feel
who
like
they wanted all along.
why I feel like that Brock Bowers to the Raiders pick is a typical Raiders pick, though. Like they just got a tight end when they need so much stuff. They got a tight end. It's so wow. Yeah, like my man Ash just said that it was the worst first round ever. I don't. I think on the contrary, I think the first round was pretty solid from top to bottom,
Yeah,
and I think it could be one of them joints when we're looking back and be like, man, that first round in 2024 was kind of deep. Like I ain't even say nothing about Drake May or Marvin Harrison or Joe Alt or Malik Neighbors going to the Giants. I didn't say anything about a Doomsday going to the Bears. I felt like that was a possibility, but I thought they would go with an edge rusher or maybe an offensive tackle. But Keenan Allen is old and he's going to retire pretty much in the next 3 years, maybe. You need another wide receiver. Like it's just that simple. I felt like so. Yeah, pretty solid up to down in the first round. The second round, I know after we traded our pick to the Eagles, it was like four straight running cornerbacks that had got drafted. But yeah, it's nothing in the second round. I feel like anybody did that really surprises me. Like I know the Eagles got Cooper DeJean and with the 40th pick that we gave him, but it was a lot of people that could have drafted him in the first round, and he was projected to go in the first round, and he didn't. And yeah, it kind of depends on. I mean, like I'm not tripping off of trading our 40th pick and still picking the cornerback that we liked anyway. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah. Totally
So
agree. Totally agree. I think it's just one of those things where it'd be no different than I guess the same breadth as like Jaden Daniels. Whereas like for a time, having a black quarterback was unheard of. And, because this guy, Cooper DeJean, has been successful in a powerhouse conference like Iowa, and he's white, at a position where there's like pretty much no white guys. I feel like that was sort of his draw. And I don't mean to downplay or take away from any of his talent or his accomplishments. I'm just simply saying we need to be objective. And I say that saying like, "Hey, you need to realize there is a potential this guy doesn't work out." Just because there's so many white guys who root for the Commanders, and we want to have white guys on our team. Like, that's cool, but that's an outlier. And as good as that guy might be projected, in Peters we trust. So that's where we're at.
cool. Washington's 100th pick is coming up.
Yep.
But before we talk about that, um, it's a lot of things happening in other DC sports. And it wouldn't be Eddie and Mike if we didn't give y'all a little something, something. Unfortunately, we start off with a bit of bad news.
Yep.
The Caps, man, we really wanted them to make a run in the playoffs, but it's not looking too good at the moment. Took another L to took another L today to the Rangers. Lost 3-1 in
Yep.
game three. So we are now 0-3. And I get it. I know the Rangers are President Trophy winners and they all four of their lines are like pretty tough. But we were in the situation they were, and they beat us. So I wanted to get them up out of there, but it doesn't look like it. And you and shout out to Nick, watched the game tonight. So go ahead and take over, bro.
Yeah, my younger brother Nick is a huge hockey fan. Neither of us really played or anything like that, but he, on top of he roots for all DC sports, but he is certainly a much bigger hockey fan than I am. You know, I still rock the red, got my Backstrom jersey on and everything. Um, from what I saw, it's just one of those things where we were outmatched, and that's a bad thing, but it's not a bad thing. So we have a ton of young guys. We got a brand new head coach. If I was to list the guys on our team that were on the championship team, it's few and far between. You know, Ovi, Carlson, Oshie, Tom Wilson. It really doesn't go beyond that. And, especially guys like Ovechkin, the way he played has taken a toll. I would almost, in a way, liken it to Earl Campbell. Those of you who are young and don't know who Earl Campbell is, go and look up his highlights and understand that, like, what he did at a young age had a ridiculous effect on how he ended up the latter years of his life. Respect, certainly, because that dude was a badass. And same with Ovi. But he, tonight, as well as most of the series, Ovi really wasn't able to do much. The Rangers' speed was just ridiculous. Uh, Not that they needed it, but there were times where the refs made some calls that didn't help anything. Not saying that because of those calls is why the Caps lost, because the Rangers were already up 2-0. And I'm not making excuses. I'm simply saying I think this added to the frustration and to the loss. Um, yeah, and the worst part, I don't know what the percentage is because I feel like if you were to watch hockey even avidly, you learn about things, power play, the other team loses a player. So you have a man advantage for about 2 minutes typically. The Capitals have had that two different times during this playoffs, and the other team has scored on them. So that's what's known as a shorthanded goal. So twice this series in 3 games, we've had a one-man advantage, and the other team has stolen the puck, recovered the puck, whatever you want to call it, and scored on us. Um, and I just kind of feel like that's like a reflection for where we are. Like we're playing tough, we earned the penalty, we earned the man advantage, but then we don't do anything with it, and then it actually comes back to bite us in the you know what. I much love to Spencer Carberry. I think our guys are playing tough. We got a lot of young guys, a lot of rookies. We got a lot of guys who played plenty of hockey, but not at the NHL level, and it's showing. Love my team, and hey, anything's possible. We're down 3-0. Yeah, but anything's possible. Anything. Anything.
So the Nationals are hosting? No. They are in Miami
You're on the
facing
road.
the Marlins in the 4-game series that started tonight. They picked up the dub 3-1. So that's what's up. Um, Before that, they had lost 4 out of their last 6. Or you could say they won 3 out of their last 7. But nah, yeah, they should hopefully get a couple of more wins versus the Marlins. Right now, they are sitting at 11-14, I believe. Yes. With today's win, they are sitting at 11-14, 3 games under 500. I know this isn't an O's or Baltimore podcast, but shout out to them Bamas. They were, as of this afternoon, sitting on top of first place in the AL East. But every team in the AL East is over 500. And yeah, that division, they just keep on rocking, it seems. But as far as the Nets, we knew it'd be a tough season, but they're still like fighting, man. And that's all you can ask for when a team that's rebuilding. You just hope they continue to fight, continue to grow, continue to get better. I really, really like Davey Martinez in this role because you know he can lead a team to a World Series, and these are going to be his boys. Like he loves calling the team his boys. So yeah, I like the trajectory and hope they can keep on growing. What you're feeling about them?
Oh, I mean, absolutely. I think we're well ahead of schedule as far as what the projection is. You look at C.J. Abrams and just the growth right away there, especially with all the pressure since being traded to us and kind of being a pillar of sorts. If you figure guys like him and Caber Ruiz, and then you pair it with Mackenzie Gore, Josiah Gray once he gets healthy. James Wood, Irvin, and some of the other pitching staff. And that's really who this team is being built around. I think we're playing well. Unfortunately, we got swept by the Dodgers, uh, but we played a nice game tonight. Got a 3-1 win. And it was tough, but hey, we did what we did, and I like the direction we're headed in, and I agree. I think Davey Martinez, um, underrated manager, and it's going to be kind of cool to see what he does with this, for the most part, really young group. Uh, they're under 500 at the moment, but I think it's only by about 3 games, and that could go either way. It could, just to be objective, but I'm an optimistic kind of guy. That's where I'm at. So I'm just gonna kind of, stay on the positive side of things and go with fuck everyone else. We're gonna run the table. I'm kidding. No, but seriously, like it's so early in the season. I'm excited. I think the team's playing well. Hopefully, we avoid major injuries to key positions and just keep contending.
So we're gonna end this show with Washington's last pick and the last pick of the draft tonight in the third round. It's kind of a banger, I would say.
Just a bit.
Wide receiver from Rice, son of, brother of NFL greats,
Mick,
Luke
Mick, Mick,
McCaffrey.
Mick, McCaffrey.
We drafted the third McCaffrey. Um, I don't know much about Alabama. They say that I'm looking at an article right now. He's a wide receiver with a QB mentality. I
Hmm.
feel like they say that about like
What's that
almost
mean?
every. I feel like they say that about almost every white wide receiver. Like they try to say that they're headsy or that they're smart or cerebral or whatever. Like I get it. He might not be as athletic as his black counterparts, but like, come on, man. Like, if he good, he good. Like that's all I'm trying to say.
No, I
And
hear
just
you. And the McCaffrey pedigree, certainly at the very
that's all you got to say to me. Is
yeah.
he's the son of and the brother of.
So he at the very least, is going to have a good work ethic and going to be there pushing other guys. And hey, who knows? Maybe he turns out to be a nice option, a nice piece helping the team. So again, this is, I mean, he's a late pick. I'm not tripping, not one bit, not tripping at all. I am firmly on my feet. They are on the ground, and I'm good, man. I mean,
All
why?
right.
Like, what's wrong with it? Like, I like this pick.
He
Why
got a
not?
little burst on him.
Why not?
He ain't slow, I'll say that.
And for all you know, too, and nepotism is a thing. And if it's not
Oh,
nepotism, it's whatever you want to call it. Unfortunately and fortunately, depending who you are, it's not who you know. I mean, it's not what you know. Sometimes it's who you know. Peters being a San Francisco guy, where Kyle Shanahan is. Kyle Shanahan being the son of Mike Shanahan, right? Christian McCaffrey's on Kyle Shanahan's team. Ed McCaffrey was coached by Mike Shanahan. There might be all kinds of pressure from Peters with his connections to San Francisco, excuse me, saying, "Hey, draft this kid." And so, yeah, hey, like that happens. It happens in the real world, it happens in pro sports. So we'll see. But maybe with that added sort of aspect that I just mentioned, that'll push this guy to work even harder to disprove that. So no matter what, I'm riding with it. I like our team. I like what we got already. I'm cool with the draft picks. Would have loved to go a little bit more on the offensive lineman side, but it's okay. So I'm good, man.
yeah, these aren't a bad collection of draft picks, to be real with you.
Oh,
I take I take these 6 picks. What you got? A quarterback, a defensive tackle, a cornerback, a tight end, an offensive tackle, and a receiver.
yep.
6 for 6 as far as positions of need. And now the 4th round, 5th round, 6th round, 7th round, you can really go best player available. And
Absolutely.
maybe even
And
trade the 4th round pick.
for the late picks. Like that's his like at least so far, I mean it's his first go around as a GM,
I
but he
mean,
he was sort of heralded as this like, diamond in the rough finder. So we're
yeah.
gonna see. We're gonna see.
And once again, circling back to what I said earlier, having great coaching matters.
Yep.
I think my favorite pick so far, outside of the Daniels pick, might be the Sam Still pick, man.
Okay.
Because I feel like anybody in that secondary, it gets an automatic boost. You
Sure.
ever play like an RPG or something, and you get a special shield or potion or
I
something? I
I
feel like that's what Quinn and Witt does for our secondary. Them two alone makes everybody better. Every single secondary player, however good you think they are or were,
huh.
they're that much better simply because of 2 coaches.
So
You
I
can
have
take that to the bank.
hey, as long as it clears, no bounce. I'm good. I've not necessarily played RPG games myself. I have witnessed them played, so I do understand what you're saying, and I agree. I think with the picks we made and everything, it's definitely a level up, a charge up, whatever. So not much else, man.
Do you have any parting shots before we dip up on out of here? And sorry we didn't go live, y'all. I, I just I
It's
just
my fault. I didn't report to makeup on time, and Mike was just like, "Hey, look, man, you're gonna break too many camera lenses. We don't have
what?
budget for it." And I agreed. What I will say to end this segment: major shout out to NCAA for giving Reggie Bush his Heisman back.
Oh yeah.
I gotta be honest. You guys are some of the scum of the earth, but that one move you did right there was actually somewhat decent that I'm willing to back off just a little bit."
I mean, they still trash, though.
No, you're 100% correct, but
They ain't getting off that
the fact
easy.
that Johnny Manziel did what he did with, like, in front of basically the entire planet watching him and got away with everything scot-free because he's got problems or whatever else, but Reggie Bush got his Heisman taken. Yeah, it just something wasn't sitting right. That man deserves it and then some, and good for the NCAA for doing one single thing right. One. Ju just the one.
Skip Bayless is not happy that Washington drafted Mike Sainristil. He
Okay.
could basically curse Jerry Jones.
Well, I
I
think
just saw the
Jerry Jones
tweet.
forced himself a long time ago.
That man looks straight
Oh,
up like
I'm
Skeletor.
not here to defend anybody, but let's be real. He ran Jerry Jones out of that place and had Barry Switzer coach Jerry Jones's guys to a championship.
Oh, you made Danny, not Danny, Dennis Johnson. No, not Dennis Johnson. Jimmy Johnson. You said Jerry Jones. You meant Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah, he ran Jimmy Johnson. I thought I said Jimmy Johnson. My bad. I
No,
said
you
Jerry Jones.
said he ran Jerry Jones.
Oh, wow, Jerry. Yeah. You know what? I'm willing to bet Jerry Jones would run himself out if there was a way he could. He's probably so nuts at this point. Anywho, yeah, he ran Jimmy Johnson out of there after Jimmy Johnson completely transformed and rebuilt that team. And he brought in Barry Switzer, who was a good college football coach, to win a championship. And then after that, they've been garbage ever since. They've been just a notch above the Washington Redskin football team Commanders, and that's it. That's really like that's about it. You know, Dez caught it. The O line, and Zeke, we them boys. I don't know how
All
we
right.
off like you got me like talking about them jokers. Oh yeah.
All right, for Luke's Holla at your Alabama's next week, where we talk about all our draft picks and go a little bit and more in depth on Jaden Daniels. And yeah, peace out.
Love, peace, and hair grease. Use the hair grease. Good night. You're welcome.